Hello everyone, my name is Reem Al-Alabi. I'm an assistant professor at California North State University. I'm originally a pharmacist and I did take the IBT TOEFL as part of my preparation for getting registered as a board certified pharmacist in the US. And I just got my scores and I got 114. So I got 30 out of 30 in listening, 29 out of 30 in reading, 28 out of 30 in speaking, and 27 out of 30 in writing, giving me a total of 114. And that is why I wanted to share with you some of the tips and techniques that largely helped me in preparing for the IBT TOEFL. I have to admit that I studied only for 1 week. Nonetheless, I did try hard to capture as much tips and as much techniques as possible within that 1 week, and I'll share that with you. So let me start by sharing with you my approach. As I said, I did take 1 week prep, where during this 1 week I took 2 practice tests and I took 1 speaking and writing practice test. So when I say 2 practice tests, this means a full practice test, including reading, listening, writing, and speaking. And then I took 1 specific speaking and writing practice test. And you can find all these tests in the ETS TOEFL website. And then I watched a couple of YouTube videos, and I will share the details with you in the upcoming slides. And then I started creating speaking and writing templates. I have to admit that I did not use the speaking templates that much, because on the spot sometimes you get, distracted, confused. But if you did not show that during the exam and manage to control your tone, then you will do good. Even if you did not use the phrases that everyone is trying to use, or even if you did not use the transitions, right? Just show that you understand the topic. Don't a lot or pause a lot, and don't repeat words, and that's it. So don't force yourself to remember the phrases or the transitions on the day of the exam if you feel it did not come that easy to you, okay? So by the way, you will find the templates in this link. I did share it here. I uploaded it on Google Drive. So you will find the templates that I used, whether for speaking or writing, here, okay? So practice, practice, practice. That is really the key to excelling in the exam, especially that it gives you an indication of your stamina during the exam. It's a 3.5 hour long exam. I finished it in around 2.5 hours, or 2 hours and 45 minutes, I think. Nonetheless, all in all, it's 3.5 hours. That is why it's really important for you to take at least 1 practice test that is a simulation of the real exam. So when you go ahead and schedule your TOEFL exam, when you choose to purchase even if 1 practice exam during that time, it will be $20 less. So instead of buying that TOEFL practice test for $45 or $49, I think, you can purchase it for around $27 or $25. So put that into consideration. Once you register for the TOEFL exam, make sure to purchase a couple of tests, because they are much less expensive than when you come later on and decide that you want to purchase those full-length exams. And when you take these exams, take them in the timed mode, so as to simulate exactly how the TOEFL exam will be. And this will give you an indication of the pace and how will you be. Try to mimic as much as possible the TOEFL real life, real time exam, okay? Also, what I did is I purchased afterwards, because it's the same whether during registering for the exam or afterwards. I did purchase the writing and speaking practice test, and it was around $25. I purchased, I think, volume 25 or volume 30. There are 2 volumes, so you can purchase both of them. And the nice thing is that also on YouTube, they do have practice tests. So writing practice, speaking practice, reading practice, listening practice, and they do have the answers as well. So I will share in the next slide couple of YouTube channels that are really very essential for you to skim through their videos and visit these channels, because they do offer great content when it comes to the IBT TOEFL. Okay, so like TST channel, the lead instructor there is amazing. Lingua Maria is another person who is actually a language expert, and I think she got 117 in one of her IBT TOEFL exams, and she also offers amazing tips and techniques. Teacher John, he does offer practice tests and also very nice tips, same as Noteful TOEFL Mastery. So these are 4 channels that I did watch some of their videos, and they, by the way, the links are there. So if you click, I am going to share these slides with you, so if you click on the link, you can go to the channel right away. Okay, I'm not going to dig deeper into the exam as a whole, nonetheless, because the speaking and the writing might be some of the hard sections, or the harder sections in the exam, especially that the speaking, we have to get a score of 26 in order for us, or for our application to be acceptable for the NABP, which is a little bit high. Speaking, I have to admit that it's not easy to get a 26. Nonetheless, with proper practice, and also with you practicing your conversational skills outside, so outside of the TOEFL studying on a daily basis, choose a friend of yours, choose someone in your family, and practice English on a daily basis. Explain to yourself, record videos, talk to yourself in the mirror. This will really help you enrich your conversational skills, your accent, your pronunciation, the enunciation, the way you speak, the tone. All these things are by practice. So you have to practice on a daily basis to practice your conversational skills and talk to different people, because this will definitely make you better in speaking and will help you in getting a better speaking score. Okay, so I'll start with the speaking questions. So there are basically 4 questions, not like the older version. The older version, the speaking questions were 6. So now the TOEFL is easier, right? Instead of having 6 questions, we have only 4 questions, where the first task is for you to choose a preference of 2 preferences, or of 2 choices. So you will be given 2 choices, and that's considered the independent task. You will be given 2 choices, and you will have to choose one of 2, and based on your choice, you have to state 2 reasons, and if you have time, you have to state examples. Okay, example for reason 1 and example for reason 2 if you can, and then if you have time, you can conclude. In case of that task, an example could be, for instance, some people prefer work that allows them to move around outdoors. Others feel it is more pleasant to work in an office. Which do you prefer and why? So you can expect any topic whatsoever, as long as it has 2 choices, and then there's no right or wrong. And even if you don't believe in your choice, or you feel that that wouldn't have been your choice, nonetheless, you know more reasons for that choice, go ahead with this choice, because you need material to talk about. You need reasons. So even if that wouldn't have been your choice in the real life, go ahead with that choice, because it has more reasons for you to talk about. The second task is simply the first integrated task, and it will be based on a topic that is related to a campus life. So what will happen is that you're going to read a short passage, which is basically an announcement. It could be an announcement about library changes, about room reservations, about commencement, whatever it is. It's something that is related to the campus. And then you will find that this passage is not long, it's short. It could be around 100 words. You have 45 to 50 seconds to read it. And then afterwards, you're going to listen to a conversation. It could be between staff members. It could be between two students. And the conversation is mainly around 90 seconds or less. And usually the speakers might either agree or disagree, or they could have mixed opinions. And this is something you can mention. The speaker had a mixed opinion. So they could have a mixed opinion about the topic, and they will state reasons, most of the time 2 reasons and example for each reason. So that's for task 2. As for task 3, it's based on a combination of reading a passage followed by a lecture by a professor, elaborating more on the passage by giving an example or 2 examples. So you have to know to read the passage in a way that you absorb what is the main topic the passage is talking about, and what are the 2 main concepts related to that topic that the passage is talking about, because the lecture, which you will listen to by the professor, mainly goes through an example for each concept. So if the passage is talking about concept X, the lecture will give an example for concept X. And then the passage is talking about concept Y. The lecture, which you will listen to, will give an example for concept Y. And usually the question is always about, okay, briefly describe what the passage was about, or define the main topic that the passage was talking about, and then mention the examples that were discussed by the professor on that topic. Okay? So that's basically for task 3. As for task 4, it basically requires you to respond to a listening passage alone. So there is no reading whatsoever. You just need to listen to sort of a short lecture. So you are listening, or you're going to listen to a short portion of an academic lecture. And it's basically just the instructor's speech. And there will not be any classroom discussion from students. And it's about 2 minutes long. And you have to focus on that lecture in listening to it and writing down notes, so as to be able to explain exactly what the professor or the lecturer was talking about, and mention examples, breaking down what you listened to. So that's basically for the speaking questions. As for my approach, what I did, I have my, of course, you're given a scratch sheets or scratch papers where you can, I think you're given 4. So if you use your 4 during the reading and listening, you have a break. You can always return those 4 and ask for additional 4 in the break for your speaking and writing. And remember, you cannot write anything in these scratch papers until your speaking test starts, okay? So what I did is, when I got my new scratch papers, and once the speaking test started, for every task you can break down, before even the question starts, you can break down what you're going to write, so as to be organized and shift your brain to think accordingly. So in task 1, which is basically your preference, you have 2 things to choose from. Which one do you prefer? I have O, that stands for opinion. So here I'll write my opinion quickly. Shorthand. Reason 1, example 1, so R1E1. Reason 2, example 2, R2E2. And if I have time, I'll conclude. If I saw in the screen that there is extra time, let's say 9 seconds, I'll say that is why I do believe this or that, or I do believe that or that, or to summarize or to conclude, whatever it is. Whatever comes to your mind. Don't feel reluctant. Whatever comes out of your mouth, just continue it with confidence. As for task 2, you will basically break your scratch, or divide your scratch paper or part of it into 2 parts. You have the campus announcement that you're going to read, right? And then you have the student or the staff discussion. So in the part that indicates the campus announcement, you have the main announcement. So you would write, okay, it's about room reservation policies in the library. It's about changing the commencement to 2 times per day instead of having one large commencement. It's about this, it's about that. And then you mention reason 1, the campus or the university decided on doing that, and reason 2. And if you have time, you can mention some examples, but no need to go into details for the campus announcement, because most of the questions are based on the speaker, on the listening. So they basically ask you what the listening part is about. What did they agree on? Did the student or the staff member agree or disagree on whatever the campus announcement is about? So the second half of task 2 in your scratched paper would be the opinion, whether of the student or of the staff member, and then the first reason why they believe that, and they usually say an example, and the second reason, and they usually say an example for the second reason. So I remember, for instance, like in that question, in task 2 in specific in the exam, they were talking about, like, the campus announcement was about the library and how they are going to put online reservation, online library room, studying room reservation policies, so as to help students find rooms, like more available rooms for them to study, and that they will limit it to 2 hours per group of students. So, for instance, in the listening, the student was against that, and one of the things that she said is, I disagree with limiting the number of hours to 2 hours, because that's not enough for us to study. I remember when we were studying for the Japanese course, the Japanese study group took 4 hours, and that was really great for us to finish what we needed in order to excel in the exam. So she mentioned that she did not like it and that it's not enough, so that's the reason. And then she mentioned an example, which is the Japanese study group. So here you have an example, and so on. So R1, E1, R2, E2, by the way, not E1, okay? And then going on to task 3. In task 3, like I said, you have a reading that is talking about a topic. And there will always be a phrase, a catching phrase, whatever economy, conserved economy, like there is this sort of chunky phrase that is the main topic that the lecture or the reading is talking about, and that the lecture will complement. So write down that phrase. This is the main term that you're going to define. So write down that, and then write the definition, and then write down the different examples that the reading is giving you, the reasons, if there are any, or the subtopics, if there are any, and then the examples. And then in the listening, you will just briefly write the overview of what the lecturer or the professor was saying, and then write the 2 examples that the professor used in order to elaborate on the topic and explain the topic more. And also, as for task 2 and task 3, whenever there is time, conclude by saying, this is, for instance, in task 2, you could say, these are the reasons why the student disagreed with the campus announcement. In task 3, you could say, mention the main term, let's say intellectual disabilities. So, for instance, you can say, and this is what the reading, both the reading and the lecture talked about, for instance. You know, so, okay, so to conclude, both the reading and the lecture talked about intellectual disabilities, the definition, and a couple of examples. That's it. Try not to increase or put a lot of words into the conclusion, and only if there is time. Don't stress on that. And then for the last task, which is just listening to the lecture, remember, the lecturer is going to go through the definition of the main topic, or what is the main topic. So you are going to write or define the main topic quickly with shorthand. Of course, never write the full sentences, remove the vowels. Try to practice note-taking as much as possible, because you will take a lot of notes, whether in the listening, in the speaking, or in the writing. And you will excel in all of them if you knew how to take good notes. So the key for succeeding in the TOEFL in general, especially on those 3 sections, is note-taking and practicing, okay? So in task 4, put this: define main topic, subtopic 1, example 1, subtopic 2, example 2, and that's it. So this is basically what I used in my speaking section in order to guide my brain to focus and think accordingly. And I just wrote keywords and shorthand, that's it. Okay? As for the writing, you will have 2 questions. The first task, or the task 1, is simply integrated writing task, where you will read a passage. It's exactly like the integrated speaking. You read a passage which is about 250 to 300 words long. Most of the time, even during the real exam and during my practice exams, it was archaeological. I don't know why. Talking about archaeological findings, excavations, ships that are abandoned, shipwrecks, whatever it is. I don't know, they like archaeology, but not necessarily that you will find it archaeology. Okay? So you will read this 250 to 300 words long passage, and then you must listen to a lecture that is around 2 to 2.5 minutes long. Okay? And basically what will happen is that the lecture will either agree or disagree with the passage. So let's say the passage was saying, okay, they discovered these remains of dinosaurs, and they found specific features on these dinosaurs, and they thought that they could be feathers. And the reason why they could be feathers is 1, 2, 3. Okay? And then the lecture comes, and the lecturer in the lecture that you're listening to will say, I do disagree with the theory that these are feathers due to several reasons. And then the lecturer will mention reason 1 and will have details about reason 1, will mention reason 2, will have details about reason 2, will mention reason 3, and will have details about reason 3. What I want you to know is you can skim through the reading part of the writing question, which is task number 1. Skim through the reading. You can write notes if you want, but no need to just stress about it. Just know the main idea and know what is the main theory and what are the 3 reasons, highlights of the main reasons. You need to focus very well on the listening. You need to write as much notes as possible on the listening part. You need to break down, and you will do the same thing. You have main idea, you have reason 1, so you can write R1, details 1, so D1. So the lecturer will mention the first reason why they disagree or agree with whatever is in the passage. R2, D2, so reason 2, details 2. R3, D3. Write as much as possible, because this is what you're going to use in order to write your, answer your question, your writing question, or do your writing task, okay? So they always focus more on the listening part of the lecture versus the reading part. And the nice thing is that you can always go back to the reading part, because you will find it there within. So basically, it's divided into the question, the task 1 question. The window is divided into 2 parts. The part on the left is simply the reading passage that you read before, and the part to the right is simply where you're going to write your essay. Okay? So that is why you will always have access to the reading passage. So don't worry about not digging deep into the reading part. Nonetheless, never lose any opportunity, never get distracted in the listening part, because you have to write all the points, or else you can never go back to the listening part again. Okay? So that's for the task number 1. As for task number 2, it's simply the independent writing task. And it's something similar to the independent speaking task, where you will be asked to express and support your personal opinion about something. So I remember in the exam last Saturday, I was asked whether I prefer individual preferences or just following the traditions without questioning them. So, that was an interesting topic. So, for instance, in my case, I said, okay, I do prefer individual preferences because sometimes traditions do hinder people from achieving their goals. Sometimes they're not fair to all genders or to some genders, so on and so forth. So it's just, general topic. The writing is much easier than the speaking. You have a lot of time. If you organize yourself, you will have plenty of time to write a great essay. So don't worry about the writing as long as you did practice tests, as long as you know good phrases to use, as long as you're organizing your thoughts, you'll do great in the writing. So don't worry about the writing that much. Plus, the writing, you need to get 24, which is not that hard to get, by the way. So now you're ready for the exam day. Sleep well. I slept for 10 hours. I remember I intentionally went to bed early because sleeping well will definitely clear your brain and it will make you perform much better in the exam. Go 30 minutes to 1 hour earlier than the time. It's better. You never know. Okay. So be there 30 minutes to 1 hour earlier than your exam. You can have your templates with you just in case if you're waiting outside. You can look at the templates and revise some of the phrases, the idioms. Don't forget to have your required ID, whether passport, driver's license, green card. It depends. If you're in the U.S., for instance, and you are a citizen, then you just need the driver's license. If you have a passport and you signed up with the passport, you registered, it depends how did you register for the exam. So if you registered using your passport, then take the passport, okay? And if you want to be in the safe side, take as much IDs as possible. You never know what they will ask you to get with you. Please note that nothing will be allowed inside except your ID. They're going to give you a pen and they're going to give you scratch papers, only 4, okay? And then inside you will have, of course, the headset. Nonetheless, to give you heads up, the headset does not cancel any outside noise. So get ready to be distracted, unfortunately, by others. And this is the next point. Prepare yourself for distraction, especially in the speaking part. Unfortunately, most of the time you'll find most of the exam takers that are in the room are TOEFL exam takers. So you'll find every single exam taker speaking in the same time. So this might actually impact your brain from performing in the way you want. So that is why maybe if you want to simulate as much as possible, have someone in the room with you when you're doing your practice test, talk, okay? Or a couple of them, and see how are you going. Train your brain to accept that and to keep going. And don't stress on remembering phrases. Don't stress on trying to find transition words or trying to abide by the template exactly. Because sometimes if you force your brain to do that, you will have a brain block, a mental block. So just relax and leave the flow of the words come out. And you will do great as long as you are talking with confidence, you're maintaining the tone of your voice, you're trying to have a good accent. That's it. You don't need anything else. They will know. The nice thing is that in the real test, it's real people assessing your speaking and writing. In the practice test, actually, it will be the computer. So the computer is a harsher grader, by the way, because it's all artificial intelligence based, okay? During the reading, which is the first section, skim through the reading articles quickly. Don't slow down while reading the article. You will find a lot of terms that you might not know. Yes, you will feel that the article's flow is not that easy to follow. You'll feel, oh, what's this topic? I mean, it's really confusing, and you might start feeling overwhelmed. No, don't give in to that. Skim through the article quickly. know the main idea, look at the different sections, know the highlight of the every paragraph, and that's it, and move on to the first question. Because you will always be able to go back to the article and find the answer. In every section or in every question, sometimes they have the article there for you, or they have the paragraph that has the answer for the question for you. So use that wisely. Use your time wisely. So just skim through the articles, look at the questions, and you can go back and forth if needed. And whenever there is a term that they want you to find the closest meaning for, and you're not really able to find or to know or to determine which one is it, keep reading the sentence over and over and try to see what does it mean for you. And then you could rule out the different answers and you will get the best answer at the end. This will enable you to finish the reading part quickly and move on to the listening part. During the listening part, don't allow yourself by any means to get distracted. Try not to look around you. Try not to, lose your attention just by focusing on something that doesn't have to do with whatever is in front of you. Focus on the screen, on what you're listening. Write down as much as possible every single thing that you listen to. Of course, you won't write every single thing, but you need to focus on the main points that the person or the lecturer and the students are talking about. You need to capture all the important phrases that they even show you on the screen. Because sometimes they say a phrase and then they write it on the screen. And this means that this is an important part of the listening that you need to focus on and know the definition for. So try to slow down, relax. If you want to close your eyes while you're listening and take notes so as to focus more on what is being said and not to be distracted, do that. And that is why practicing is really important, because it will tell you which type of test taker are you and what is the best approach for you in order to excel in each of these sections, whether speaking, listening, writing, or reading. Okay? So the last thing is, and this really helped me a lot, is that I finished the reading and the listening sections before others in the room, and I was able to take my 10 minutes break before everyone else, and this enabled me to finish 3 out of the 4 speaking questions before everyone else took the speaking and writing questions. Why? As I told you, distraction. When I was in my 4th speaking question, everyone in the room started their first speaking question. It was really hard, I have to admit. It wasn't easy. It was hard for me to focus that much on the listening part and on what I really wanted to say, because you hear a lot of things coming from different other test takers, right? So you need to make sure as much as possible that you are trying to make your brain focus on your question, on your task that you're working on, and again, try to practice that at home by having others speaking while you're listening to the question and preparing your response. It might help you actually, because be prepared. Again, you will find a lot of everyone is speaking at the same time. But again, finishing earlier will give you heads up and will give you a head start where you can finish many of the speaking questions before others even, which is great. Because then you will be the only one who's doing the speaking questions, no distractions. At least you will guarantee that the first couple of questions were done quietly and in a good way. Okay? I hope that was helpful. And I do wish you all the best in your TOEFL exam, and I'm pretty sure that you will all do great and get the required scores. Thank you so much for listening.